afternoon. I am going to call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Wednesday, June 13th, to order. My name is Andrea Jenkins, and I am the chair of this committee. With me at the dais are Council Members Palmisano, Johnson, Goodman, Ellison, Schrader, Council President Bender, Council Member Cunningham, and Council Member Reich. Let the record reflect that we do have quorum. And so, colleagues, the only business before us today is the receipt of reports from the standing committees on matters to be considered by the full council at our regular meeting this coming Friday. And we will begin with the Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee, chaired by Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Economic Development and Regulatory Services Committee is bringing forward 14 items. It looks like a lot of items because the new system is separating all sorts of interesting items, so I'm going to just point them out. It used to be all in one report, but now there are a bunch of things separated out for your perusal and enjoyment, especially so you can hear about the gambling licenses, separate from the business licenses, separate from the liquor licenses, and the renewals separated from the new ones. Let me assure you, we take those all with one motion, so we're not hearing them all individually. Item number 1 is a new business, Geek Love Cafe at Moon Palace Books. Item number 2 is an expansion of premise for Five Guys at 555 Nicollet Mall. Item 6 is Broken Clock Brewing, which is an on-sale and Sunday taproom license. I'll note that's a cooperative brewery, so it was really cool to hear about their model. Item number 4 is an expansion for All Square on Minnehaha Boulevard in the 12th Ward. Item 5 is a license revocation that they have since paid the license. So we had deleted it from the agenda, but now we're going to actually have to take a motion in committee in the full council on this to acknowledge it came to us and is being taken off the agenda. Item 6 are the liquor license approvals. Item 7 are the business license approvals. Item 8 are the business license renewals. Item 9 are the gambling license approvals. Item 10 are the gambling license renewals. So as you can see, now you'll have a sense of each individual license on the agenda. Item 11 are license settlement conferences for Aqua Nightclub. Item 12, 13, 14, and 15 are all rental licenses reinstated of former Zarbalis Friends properties. I will note that we had a presentation about this in committee and saw the review method and process that staff are going through in order to renew licenses for former Zarbalis and Friends properties. These were 4 that we felt we could move forward. All of these tenants, no one will be evicted. The licenses will be renewed with a different owner. Hopefully people will be able to stay in place. With that, I am happy to answer questions about items 1 through 15.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman. Are there any questions? Are there any questions? I do want to just let the record reflect that we have been joined by Councilmember Warsame as well as Councilmember Gordon. And our next committee report is from the Enterprise Committee, chaired by Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. There are 6 items for approval at Friday's full council meeting that come forward from the Enterprise Committee. The first 3 are IT contracts. They're IT service-related contracts. Item number 1 is with the Solid Waste Information System. Item number 2 is for IT's ServiceNow pool. I guess we are extending that ServiceNow capability to more departments in our city. Item number 3 is COBRA administration compliance assistance. Item number 4 is really interesting because we heard a short presentation, met with university officials, and are seeking authorization to negotiate a master contract with the University of Minnesota for all the things that we do with them. And there'll be more to come when a contract comes before us in the fall to consider, but that's a pretty big deal. Items number 5 and 6 are both staff directions related to a presentation we heard about data practices. Item number 5 is about finding a better single point of access for data practice requests and working together with our police department in new ways to make that happen. And item number 6 is to take all of the different ways that we look to do data transparency and other kinds of initiatives in our city, and to bring that back as one in September, a state of data report that comes from the Information Governance Policy Committee. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. Are there any questions? I actually have a question on number 4, the master contract with the University of Minnesota. And I'm curious, is that a master contract about new business, or is it just a consolidation of the work that we currently do at the university?
Madam Vice President, members of the committee, the contract would involve a consolidation of the many contracts. It used to be dozens, now it's more like a dozen of ways we have existing memoranda of understanding when we engage in work, so both existing and new. There are a lot of efficiencies that I think that we are excited that people around the city are eager to work on better, such as Public Works needs to go through processes to access something on University of Minnesota property, but it's also to engage in new ways and new research and collaboration that then doesn't need to involve a separate contract. So it's a both and.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will now hear from the Housing Policy and Development Committee, chaired by Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much, Vice President. The Housing Policy and Development Committee is bringing forward 6 items for consideration. The first is authorizing agreements regarding our housing lender participation agreements for Minnesota Housing Improvement Loan Programs. Second one is a resolution adopting all the documents necessary to move forward on our home improvement program participation agreements. The third item is approving Affordable Housing Trust Fund loan for the Park 7 apartments. This is a re-award. The fourth item is authorizing a request for proposals for our 2018 Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS request for proposals. The fifth item is approving our 2019 Housing Tax Credit Program Qualified Allocation Plan and Procedures, and authorizing staff to proceed with an RFP for those. And the sixth item is a staff direction. We received a report from the Public Housing Authority, a presentation on their 2018 draft capital plan, and we directed staff to come back and report to the committee in July with some more details about a unified participation plan that's in our ordinance, and also to clarify what the authority and responsibility the city of Minneapolis has over the MPHA. I'm happy to stand for questions on any of those.
Thank you, Chair Gordon. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will next hear from the Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee, chaired by Councilmember Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The Public Health, Environment, Civil Rights, and Engagement Committee will be bringing forward 2 items for consideration at Friday's council meeting. The first is a nuisance orders ordinance, passage of an ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 47 of the Minneapolis Code of Ordinances relating to air pollution and environmental protection. An additional public comment has been added to the record and emailed to my colleagues. This work is actually just codifying the work that the health department the environmental staff in the health department already do. So this is just codifying that. And the second is agreements with Xcel Energy to purchase renewable electricity through their Renewable Connect program. I also want to share with my colleagues that we had 2 presentations at the committee, which the first is about the family and early childhood efforts. And so they covered the work that they do around pregnant and parenting families, with an emphasis on reaching low-income, at-risk families through programs, community partnerships, and policy change. And also, we had a presentation from the Minneapolis Workplace Advisory Committee. They brought in their progress report And recommendations, they brought recommendations on engaging and creating collaborative dialogue between the business community, our worker community, and the city. So I highly recommend my colleagues check out the video from that to be able to learn about the work that's happening and the recommendations from a very active advisory committee. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Cunningham. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, we will next move to the Transportation and Public Works Committee, chaired by Councilmember Reich.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The committee forwards 11 items for council consideration. Item 1 is the Bicycle Advisory Committee appointments. Item 2 is the Minneapolis Stormwater Management Program Annual Report. Item 3 is the 34th Avenue South Street Reconstruction Project. Items 4, 5, and 6 are authorizing contracts to support activities of the department. Item 7 is the acquisition of pipeline easement for the location of an existing city water main. Item 8 is a grant application through the 2018 Metropolitan Council Regional Solicitation Program for federal transportation funds. And items 9, 10, and 11 are all accepting bids for activities of the department. Madam Vice President, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Chair Wright. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to our next committee report, which is the Ways and Means Committee, chaired by Councilmember Warsame.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 6 items to report to the full council. The first item is a contract amendment with Ebert Inc. for the under freeway impound lot. Item number 2 is a contract amendment with Northern Lions Contracting for the East Side Storage and Maintenance Facility demolition project. Item number 3 is a bid for Minneapolis Convention Center kitchen ductwork replacement. Item number 4 is a bid for high reach equipment. Item number 5 is a legal settlement, Christine Johnson. Item number 6 is a transfer of 2018 funds from the City Coordinator's Office to the Community Planning and Economic Development Department for a workforce development assessment for the renewable electricity sector. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chair Warsame. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, we will move to the Zoning and Planning Committee report, chaired by Councilmember Schrader.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Zoning and Planning Committee will bring forward 3 items on Friday. The first is approving an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan to amend the future land use map for properties located at 1000 North 3rd and 1001 North Washington Avenue North. The second is a rezoning for the property at 2535 Eldridge Avenue South. And the final one is a rezoning for 1003rd LLC in bulk storage at 1000 North 3rd Street. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Schrader. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, we will now hear from the Audit Committee, chaired by Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. There's nothing that we need to forward from the Audit Committee this cycle. We did have our regular meeting on Monday, unless the city clerk that's looking at me has other ideas. But I did want to highlight that we have a new director of internal audit after a lengthy 6-month search that involved out-of-state candidates and several rounds of interviews with a lot of the leadership here in City Hall. In collaboration with my colleagues, I'm proud to announce that Ms. Ginger Bigby is our new head of internal audit, and she'll be starting in a couple of weeks. So I'll look forward to taking her around to meet all of you when she does. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair Palmisano. Are there any questions? All right. Well, seeing that there are no other committee reports, and that completes our business for this afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Gordon.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask a little bit about the Meet Minneapolis audit report. Is that going to be forwarded to the council or go through the Ways and Means Committee at all? Are we going to? I see in our book that came before the audit committee. They took that report, and I've been hearing a little bit in the press about that. And I'm just curious if there's a way that that's going to formally interact with the council, or are we just going to take that information and study the report as we're preparing for the budget process?
Madam Vice President, members of the committee, Councilmember Gordon is correct in that the main new business item for Audit Committee was the Meet Minneapolis audit. It's received a lot of attention. Whilst the Audit Committee simply receives and orders publish those reports, it would be up to anybody here, if you wish to bring a staff direction forward to do further something else with it. That audit work effort is complete right now. So I have had conversations with people from Meet Minneapolis as late as this morning in terms of learning what their next steps are and what they've been doing since that time, so this week, and what they plan to do to help remediate those findings. I'm happy to speak with you more about them, but there is no formal action for the council to take because Audit Committee has already approved that report.
Okay, well, we can talk outside of this too. It's, I want to understand more about it and what our connection is. I believe the contract flows through the convention center that flows through the coordinator's office, so there might be an opportunity for one or more committee to actually look into it a little bit.
If I may, Madam Vice President, we did have a conversation about it during the Results Minneapolis meeting this morning.
Are there any other questions? With that, that completes our business for this afternoon, and with no further business to come before us, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.